Welcome to the age of Zendaya. The biggest focus is managing and finding my joy and peace throughout my career and making sure I hold on to that. Styling by Lagroach, photography by Josh Olins. There's a moment in Challengers in the very final act when all the nasty little game-playing chickens come home to roost. If you've seen the movie, and of course you have, you know the one. Patrick, a swaggering Josh O'Connor, holds a ball to his racket, signaling something devastating to his one-time best friend Art, Mike Feist, who is now married to Patrick's ex, Tashi, played by the one and only Zendaya. When this scene rolled during the Australian premiere of Challengers in late March, the crowd was rocking. "Oh shit!" Someone yelled, Sato no longer voce in the febrile rapture of the State Theatre. Sydney was the first stop on the global tour for Challengers, which is the kind of movie that demands to be seen with an audience. The more roses sodden, the better. It boasts outrageous needle drops, unhinged horniness, and an almost pneumatic silliness that will have you grinning from ear to ear. Maybe the theater was so amped because Zendaya was there in the flesh, walking the red carpet in a bedazzled lawn green loo gown. Her hair was newly blonde for the occasion, though Zendaya, ever the perfectionist, every article ever written about her will tell you one thing, and that is that Zendaya is a Virgo, was worried that nobody could tell. "I didn't like the lighting on the carpet. It was so dark," she admits. "I dyed my hair blonde and it looks brown." She tips her immaculate pile of curls forward, and yes, they are fresh as a wedge of lemon. "This is blonde. I did all this work." Zendaya has made an art form of the press tour, and planning spans months, even years. The archival Thierry Mugler robot suit, worn at the London premiere of Dune. Part 2 in February was something Zendaya first suggested to her stylist Lagroach when she was making the film 2 entire years ago. "I was going through references and coming up with ideas. Do you think we could do this?" And he was like, "Don't play with me." The Australian premiere of Challengers was the first time that Zendaya had the opportunity to see the movie with an audience. "I was really happy," she smiles. The film has been waiting almost 2 years for this moment, and though Zendaya has always been proud of the project, such a drawn-out pause allowed insecurity to fester. "You just want people to enjoy it and have a good time," she admits. In her capacity as both star and producer, Zendaya has seen the film on countless occasions, but every viewing brings a new appreciation. "It is funny, which I realized, too, watching. A lot more people laughed than I expected." She was torn between wanting to stay in the dark with a crowd who was responding so viscerally to this long-gestating work, and duty to the fans who were outside, who had been waiting all day for a glimpse of their hero. If every article ever written about Zendaya tells you a second thing, it is that she takes the responsibility of her fame very seriously. So Zendaya left her big premiere after 45 minutes to take selfies with all the people in line. The next afternoon, she sits curled up on an armchair in a suite overlooking the Sydney Opera House in a sporty green Louis Vuitton midi dress. She's a house ambassador and a pair of hotel slippers. An assistant hovers over her shoulder, waiting to collect the Bulgari jewelry. She's an ambassador for them, too, on loan for the day. Off come 3 rings, a choker, a tangle of bracelets, and a couple of brilliant diamond studs the size of peanut M&Ms. Even without the bling, there is no mistaking Zendaya's star power. Up close, there is a force to it that is equal parts charisma and the straightforward, polished friendliness of so many former child stars. She is genuinely lovely, but she is also a little guarded. She's always been in the public eye, ever since she was 13. But now she's famous. She can still do normal things, but they require Herculean planning, back entrances and security guards, private dining rooms, after-hours visits to museums, sneaking into movies after the lights go down. "If I can get in quietly, it's nice," she admits. "No one can see you." This change in her life was speed-ramped on the set of Challengers, which began filming in the middle of 2022 after the release of Dune, Spider-Man, No Way Home, and the second season of Euphoria, culminating in another Best Actress Emmy trophy. She is the youngest person ever to win the award. And she's won it twice, and making public her relationship with Tom Holland. Any of these alone would have been enough. Collectively, it was celebrity critical mass. It became very apparent for her, while we were shooting this film, of her stardom changing. She was kind of realizing, "Oh, my life is different now," remembers her Challengers co-star Mike Feist. To the point where, she actually couldn't leave her apartment, is the truth. She finished making Challengers in Boston and went straight to the sand dunes of Abu Dhabi for Dune. Part 2, and then that wrapped in December 2022, and she hasn't been on a film set since. It was accidental, this break, compounded by the actors' strike and the pushback in production on the third season of Euphoria, the hectic HBO high school drama that began when she was 22. Her response to the Euphoria delay is measured. I'm a firm believer that the right thing will happen at the right time. Things are meant to be the way they're meant to be. I can't speed things up, slow things down. But not doing her job, and for so long, is strange for this hyper-focused person who has been working since she was 13. I hadn't been working, honey, she says drily, eyebrows raised. That's been really tough for me because I'm so used to it. That's all I know how to do, and it's all I've ever done. Extended periods of pause can make a woman think. Sometimes when you work so much, it becomes almost a distraction, she explains. Like you don't have to think about your life all that much because you're like, I'm just working, working, working. So when you are in moments where you just have to do life, then you're like, oh, I really have to deal with all these feelings I have, you know. So I'm trying to work through feelings that I think come of any person that's growing up and having grown up in the public sphere. The questions she is circling are simple yet fundamental. I've only ever done this. What else am I even good at? What else can I do? Zendaya got her first taste of being a producer when she was 18 years old. The project was KC Undercover, the breezy, long-running Disney Channel series about a family of spies. Zendaya, a mononymous megastar since making her television debut 5 years prior, had already learned a powerful lesson. Have your own back, just in case anyone else doesn't, she says. Because sometimes you're maybe not taken as seriously, or your thoughts are kind of brushed off as, you're just an actor. I really like to be able to have my own back, and hopefully in the process other people's backs as well. As a producer on Challengers, Zendaya is the film's architect. She suggested director Luca Guadagnino, the maestro of sunlit sultriness, as evidenced in Call Me By Your Name, whom she met at a fashion show and handpicked co-stars Josh O'Connor, having watched him on The Crown, and Mike Feist, after seeing him in the original Broadway production of Dear Evan Hansen. Jonathan Anderson, creative director of Low, was enlisted to design the costumes. What is amazing about Zendaya is she is someone who really defines her generation, which is extremely rare, enthuses Anderson via email. And yet there has never been someone so humble. Not to mention, she has an incredible fashion knowledge, which made our collaboration so much more compelling. The biggest is managing and finding my joy and peace throughout my career and making sure I hold on to that. When it came to Tashi, a prodigy sidelined by injury, Zendaya shaped her into a ferocious blend of competitive energy and messy desire. In the original draft, she was even more harsh and more cutthroat, she shares. Something we all talked about and worked with was not just making her a caricature of strength, allowing her to be gentle and soft. Challengers is a film that's at full pelt from the very first sweat-soaked scene, but it's the quieter, more disarming moments that reveal the height of Zendaya's powers. Guadagnino loves the fizzy, flirtatious back and forth volley between Tashi and Feist's art as they reconnect, in which she shows so many emotions and fragilities in an arresting way. Then there's the scene where Tashi first truly grieves the end of her career, not with a bang but a dejected whimper. She's so raw, reflects Josh O'Connor. I definitely had this understanding as a viewer watching her work before. To witness her do that, she's just got this access to her character's soul so flawlessly. And seemingly effortlessly, though I know she does prep and she works, she studies the script. O'Connor, along with Feist, joined Zendaya in Sydney for the Challengers premiere, where the pair spoke to Vogue Australia. Remember what I told you to say, she jokingly directed them. When talking about Zendaya, certain words were persistent, hardworking, kind, grounded, and playful. You would do a scene with her. She would pull out this unbelievable performance they called cut, and she'd be like, would you rather this or this? Or let's play rock, paper, scissors, O'Connor marvels. She's just a goofball, says Feist. She's always down to clown. Adds Guadagnino. Z has a generosity and sophistication that are very inspiring to me. Guadagnino has described the film as sexy, spelling his own. There is literal sexiness in the film. The notorious, much-memmed, very sizzling first kiss between Tashi, Patrick, and Art, in which Zendaya's character holds the balance of power like a ball in her hands, but also figurative. The way O'Connor's Patrick eats a banana should come with a content warning. By the way, this low-slung character was based, so O'Connor says, on Nick Kyrgiev's. And yet, Zendaya is quick to point out, everybody thinks they watched a lot of sex scenes, and they didn't. There's a lot of making out, but they're not sex scenes. It's semantics, but Zendaya's point is that intimacy doesn't need to be explicit, merely on the road to it. She shimmies in her seat, trying to find the words. You can feel the sweat dripping down their faces and feel how hot they might be, she says, hands balled into fists. And that's enough. More than enough, she declares. Because it tricked everybody into thinking they watched something they didn't watch. Now might be a good time to talk about the ending. It's certainly polarizing. In Zendaya's US Vogue interview, Serena Williams said that she hated how ambiguous it was. Basically, after Patrick places the ball on his racket, signaling to Art that he has been sleeping with Tashi. Oh shit. The pair rally like they've never rallied before, leaping over the net and into each other's arms as Tashi cheers in ecstasy from the sidelines. How I perceive it, her one true love above all these men has always been tennis, Zendaya begins. Once her husband says, I don't want to do this anymore, that to her is as good as her life is over. So she manipulates the only way she can, courtside, because her life is depending on it. This notion of Tashi's life or death mentality recurs often in conversation with Zendaya. There's a sense that this is not something she wants for herself in her career. Asked her ambitions, yet to be achieved, she pauses. I don't know, she says. The biggest focus is managing and finding my joy and peace throughout my career and making sure I hold on to that. Her 20s have been a time of immense change, both personal and professional. They began when she moved to New York, alone, to film The Greatest Showman. I love doing that movie, every day of it, she smiles. The first really being in another city, by myself, adulting and shit. Then along came 3 Spider-Men, Euphoria, Dune, Challengers, and I Feel Like I Blinked, and then it was like, I was 27, Zendaya lemons. Is this how it's gonna be forever? It just goes on fast forward, but you still feel the same age and nobody tells you that you still don't know what you're doing, but you're still getting older. What the fuck? She laughs. That is a trap. But there are positives to getting older. Zendaya, a self-professed queen existential crisis. She'll happily muck in on other people's problems, too, though maybe I should just worry about myself every now and then, not take on everybody else's stuff, relishes the perspective of hindsight. You can actually step back and look at it. This works, this doesn't work. This is serving me, this is not. Just try to figure out what really makes you happy. Has she got the answer? I think I'm still figuring that out, she replies, quickly. I think I'm learning as I go. The day of this interview, there is a video doing the rounds online of Steven Spielberg asking Denis Villeneuve which one of his Dune cast could he imagine as a director, and Villeneuve's immediate answer is Zendaya. She is bashful at the mention of it. The truth is that Zendaya already talks like a director, referencing specific camera angles and challengers, such as the way Guadagnino used perspective shots in the third act to make the audience feel like they were right there in the marriage bed. She is most passionate when excavating the process of filmmaking. On Euphoria, for example, we do a lot of takes because it's all about finding it, you know what I mean? Whereas Guadagnino, most of the time he was just like, love, moving on. I was like, really? You don't want me to do it again? On Dune? Part 2, she shyly asked Villeneuve if he would mind if she shadowed both him and cinematographer Greg Fraser, and so she spent almost the entire production on set, even when she wasn't required in a scene. Faced muses that film sets are where Zendaya finds community. She probably has found her tribe. She just immediately kind of says, all right, we're family. Seeing filmmakers such as Villeneuve and Fraser or Guadagnino at work is both fuel and fear. The only thing that's getting in my way is my own self-criticism and self-doubt and my fear of not being anywhere near as close to as great as those people I get to watch, she admits. If I ever get over that feeling of telling myself that you don't know what you're doing, if I ever get over that inside voice, then maybe I would be able to actually direct something. After talking to her, this feels right. The only thing that can stop Zendaya is Zendaya. Challengers is in cinemas now. Photographer, Josh Olins. Stylist, Law Roach. Talent, Zendaya, hair, Kim Kimball, makeup, Raul Alejandra. Manicure, Marisa Carmichael. Props, Heath Mattioli. Taylor, Matthew Reisman. Production, G Projects. EP, Ricky Keen.